This is the Rick Howe Show on News 88.9. Now, here's Rick.
517. Quick little traffic note for people in the Halifax area. Highway 102 outbound. If you're heading out that way, you might expect some delays and rerouting. Halifax Fire and other emergency responders are currently at a vehicle fire on the 102 between the Larry Utek and Bedford exits, and traffic is being rerouted down Larry Utek Boulevard. And the city says that the highway will reopen as soon as the fire is extinguished and the vehicle debris is cleared from the roadway. So that's outbound on the 102 between Larry Utek and Bedford exits, and they get traffic being rerouted down at Larry Utek. 5:18 is our time right now. Well, privacy breaches at the Department of Veterans Affairs has prompted veterans this week to call for a public inquiry into the department. Jeff Rose-Martland is the president of Our Duty, a veterans advocacy group, and Jeff joins us on the phone this afternoon. Good day, sir.
Good day.
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Rick.
Good. You're based out of Newfoundland, right?
That's right.
In St. John's?
That's right.
Okay. Tell us, what is this, the point of an inquiry? What would it be looking into?
Well, basically, we need to get some answers here. Just to remind people, the timeline of events here is that Sean Brouillet went public in fall of 2010 with the fact that his privacy had been violated and it had been used his medical information had been used to try and discredit him. The privacy commissioner went and investigated, but when she came back with her report, the only thing she could say was, yes, his privacy had been violated, which was what we already knew. So John Pierre Blackburn, who was minister at the time, announced that the ombudsman for Veterans Affairs would investigate and get to the bottom of things, and it was quoted in the media that heads would roll that this had happened. Well, 6 months later, there had been an election. Blackburn lost his seat. Blaney was made minister, and he shut down the ombudsman's investigation.
Can he do it? Obviously he can. He did it, but I mean, I'm stunned.
Yeah, it's surprising a lot of people. Now, just to be clear, government's position on this was that the ombudsman didn't need to investigate because the privacy commissioner had already investigated and it would be a waste of money to do it twice. But we still don't have any answers. We know that it happened. We don't know why. We know that some of the people that were involved got big bonuses last year for job performance.
Veterans Affairs Department people.
Veterans Affairs Department.
Yeah.
Right? So we don't know what's going on over there. We know that Harold Leduc, who was a member of the Veterans Review and Appeal Board, fellow board members were using his private information to bully him and try and get him to toe the line.
And Sergeant Tom Hoppy as well, a decorated veteran, also was victimized by the ministry.
Exactly. Pat Stogren knows that somebody was prying into his records. He didn't know why at the time. He didn't think anything too much about it. Dennis Manouge came out last year. He's behind a class action lawsuit. His privacy has been violated. It seems like this is or at least was, a standard operating procedure at Veterans Affairs at the ministry.
Yeah, as you say in your release, as soon as a veteran speaks out, senior bureaucrats in the ministry go digging into their files.
Exactly. So, and if it was one, if it was two, then maybe you could think overzealousness. But there's been so many of these that this seems to be a standard procedure. And we as a taxpayer, we're on the hook for this. We already paid out a settlement to Sean Brouillet, and he deserved it. We paid out two settlements to Harold Leduc, and he deserved it. How many more settlements are we going to have to pay out? And we still don't know what's going on over there. So what we need now is not give it to somebody that can be silenced in a few months. We need a full inquiry. It needs to happen in public, and it needs to be done now, before this issue gets any older, so that we can look around and we can see this person maybe should be charged. This person should be fired. This person shouldn't be, whatever should be done with them. This person should be excused because they were told to do this. We need to know what's going on at that department. And we also need to know, is this standard procedure at all government departments?
Well, let's hope not, for crying out loud. Holy smokes, if that was the case.
If Veterans Affairs is targeting decorated war veterans for speaking up and saying, I don't think this is right, then what chance have the average citizen got if they speak out?
Well, you also point out that it's not just the veterans themselves that are being targeted, but their family members as well, for crying out loud.
Exactly. I've seen evidence in one case, and I'm aware of at least one other case, where Veterans Affairs have not only pried into the veterans' files, but their brothers' files. So what's going on there?
Yeah, truly. And what's been the response so far? I haven't seen anything that's indicated the Harper government is open to an inquiry here. In fact, the Prime Minister was quoted this past weekend in Hong Kong saying his government has poured millions into veterans programs and looking after veterans.
Yes, and that has been their standpoint all along. What I've noticed is that there is a tendency among the Harper government that they flip numbers around. So if you say, look, you've cut so much from the department, they say, yeah, but look at all the money that the department's spending. Right? Yeah. So there's a lot of spin that happens there. And it doesn't really matter how much money they put into this department. The bottom line is anybody that criticizes the department gets their life shredded.
It's just a sad commentary on this government and how they're dealing with military veterans here. Not just this particular case that you're referring to, or these cases, but we had a more recent incident here in Nova Scotia just yesterday. Reports of food issues at veterans units in Pictou, followed by earlier reports of food issues at the Camp Hill Hospital here in Halifax. I mean, there's been one case after another of the ill treatment of Canada's military veterans. It's outrageous,
and it's even worse than a lot of us know. I hear from veterans regularly. I've just found out yesterday that at the base in Edmonton, where they provide support and transition for people leaving the military for PTSD and other illnesses, that they're housed in a building that was condemned 15 years ago, that they've got roped off to keep people from falling into holes and from stuff falling off the building on top of them.
Outrageous.
And that's where they're going for treatment.
But the government, again, has not responded to this call for a public inquiry, have they?
No, they have not. To be honest, I'm not really surprised that they haven't. It's been stock in trade for the government to ignore calls for any sort of assistance for veterans. Veterans are holding protests on a regular basis. Government ignores them. So I can't say that I'm too terribly surprised that there hasn't been any action on this.
Well, again, this movement, I guess, this concern by, and not just military veterans. I think Canadians are embarrassed by the kind of stories that they're hearing here about how we treat our military vets.
And, well, we should be. Yeah. I mean, a common comment I hear from veterans is that civilians don't care. And my response to that is always, civilians don't know. It's only been 2 years that these stories have been hitting the national media, and we're also trying to play catch-up. But universally, whenever I talk to a fellow citizen who had been unaware, when they hear one of these stories, they're outraged.
Yeah, well, and I think we're all outraged at what's going on here. Well, listen, Jeff, I appreciate you filling us in on what's happening here, and we'll watch with interest to see if the Harper government follows through and launches a public inquiry, but I wouldn't hold my breath.
No, me neither, but thanks for having me, Rick.
All right, take care, bud.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Jeff Rose-Martland is his name, and he is the president of the veterans advocacy group called Our Duty.